In the previous video, we have successfully completed the basic CRUD operation for user. We have created one user entity, repository, service, control, and finally tested everything using Postman. Now, it's time to take our application look more like a real-world stock trading app. So, every user should have a proper profile where they can update personal information, change their password, and manage account details. So, instead of writing every line of code from scratch again, which would be repetitive because we have already learned that process. So, here what we can do, I have already implemented the code part here. In this video, I will only explain every change and why that change was needed and how all components are work together. So, so first, I have updated the user entity. So let's see what we have updated. So, in the last time, we have only the full name field, but now we are storing the first name and the last name of the user. Then we are also now saving the bio of the user. Then we have also created a variable for the profile image URL, date of birth, then um, updated at to save it. And we have discussed it in earlier videos that how pre-processed will work. And in that video, I have also told you regarding the pre-update. So pre-update is that before inserting any data in the database, execute this function first. So that is what we have updated in the user entity. So make sure that you have updated these things. I will also give you a Git repo so that you can copy this code from there. Now let's move on. So now our user entity looks much closer to what you would actually see in an industry application. Uh, so next, I created a dedicated profile service. So now, uh, as we earlier discussed that how DTO is helpful for us. So so instead of directly accepting the entity, we are again using the DTOs. So I have added two more DTOs. The first DTO that change password request. So this DTO will used when we want to send the request for the change password. So here the new syntax was introduced that not blank. So it is basically for that this field should not be null. And if this is a null, then it will show this message. And now, and same with the new password and the confirm password. And the second tutorial that I have added that is update profile request. So now, while updating the profile request, we are only updating the field that only the user might request for the updation. So for updation, we have added some limitation. Like we have set the size that it can be a maximum of 50 characters. It can be maximum for last name also for maximum 50 characters likewise. And now for mobile number, here we have added a pattern that is generally known as that generally here for mobile number I have added the pattern that generally known as the regex. Then the bio field that will contain maximum 500 characters. So now I have implemented this condition here, but we can restrict these things in our database also. So, okay, now we have completed the TTOs. Then I have also updated the part of profile service. So now the profile service, earlier we have only the get profile method, but now we are adding two more methods, updating profile and the change password. So let's see how it was implemented. Let's see this method in implementation. So now, before we have only the get profile method. Now let's see the update profile. So for update profile, what we need that first of all, we need to search that particular user if it exists or not. If it exists, then only the further process will carry out. But if not exist, then it will throw a exception of user not found. Here, I have created a user-defined exceptions. So we will cover how they can implement it, how they are implemented later. So likewise, here in our we have created one user in which we are collecting the user data by find by ID method. If it found, then it will return. If not found, then it will throw a error that user not found. This is the um, manual exception that we have right. We will see later how it works. But now for now, just understand that if it's not found, then it will throw a exception. Then in that, if it is found, then in that variable we are saving the details that we'll consider for the updation. And here what we have passed in the main method was the user ID and the update profile request. So we are sending the what data we have to update here. We have sent the updated data from here. So it will send the data and accordingly it will calculate the things and updating and returning to our database using the user repository. So here we have to calculate the full name by adding the first name and the last name and returning the user response and through the filter. So that's it. Now let's see how change password is implemented. So for change password, two variables have passed. One is user ID to search that user is exist or not. Then the actual password that user want to change. So same as update profile, we have created one temporary variable or we can say temporary object in which we are searching for a particular ID and if it is found then process will carry out or if it is not found then it will return user not found. This is also a manual created exception that we will see later in this video. So next to it, here I have added one if else if block. So what that if block say, let's see. So if what we have accept in this request that we are asking for the old password to user. So if it is match, then only user has permission to change the password because we have to verify whether that only person is changing the password or not. So here also the manual exception that if not, if this is condition satisfied, that means it was not the person, original person who has the owner of that account. So we can say old password is incorrect. Then the next if block. Now this if block is for the new password and the confirm password field. If they are not match, if they are not match, then return new password and confirm password do not match. And again, we are setting this to the set password method and returning to the user repository to our database entity. So that's how we have implemented the profile service. Before moving on the next controller, uh, I have created one package for exception. So what this exception is? So Imagine if something goes wrong, maybe the user doesn't exist or user enter the wrong password. So instead of returning some confusing errors from server, we want to send a meaningful and consistent response to the client. So it is easier for the user to understand actually what the error comes. So that's exactly why I have created custom exception and a global exception handler here. So let's see first exception, that invalid password exception. So notice that uh, it extends a runtime exception. So in Java, creating custom exceptions allows us to represent specific business errors instead of throwing generic exception. So whenever a user enters an incorrect old password, it will try to change their password. And so here, notice that invalid password exception extends the runtime exception. So in Java, creating custom exception allows us to represent a specific business error instead of throwing generic exception. Whenever user enters an incorrect old password while trying to change their password, we will throw this exception. So the constructor simply accepts a message which will later be sent back to the client. So here, what is the message? Message is that invalid password. So this invalid password. So what is this message that was passed from this function? Let's see what it is. In profile service and in updating and changing password, we have include here that invalid password exception and pass this message. So now it is easier for us to debug invalid password exception, and we are passing this message, and it will throw the exception. Similarly with user not found exception and duplicate email exception. Now let's see what is the global exception handler. So instead of writing a try catch block inside every controller or every service method, Spring Boot provides us a much cleaner solution for this. So the best practice is what, in controller or in service we have to insert the try catch block. Maybe you have seen this in the Node.js and Express.js and the front end side, that we are writing the try catch block again and again. So instead of writing the try catch block inside every controller or every service method, Spring Boot provides us a cleaner solution to this, that just we have to insert risk control advice. So now this class acts like a centralized error handling mechanism for the entire application. So any exception thrown from our controller or a service layer can be intercepted here and converted to a proper HTTP response. So we don't want, so we can, so we don't have to write any try catch block in the service or in the services or in controllers. So the first handler that listens user not found exception. Whenever this exception is thrown, whenever whenever this exceptions is thrown, Spring automatically call this method, this handle user not found method, and it will it will write the response entity. in which it will return the status code and the body. So in status, it will say that HTTP status is successful, okay, not okay, uh, or found or not found, and the code. Now the next is invalid password exception. So this exception has created to throw the invalid password exception. Similarly with the duplicate email exception and method argument not valid exception. We'll see what is this handle validation error, how it works in our application. We will see this handle validation error later. So now we have done with exception. Now we have done with model, then service. There is no change in repository. And now let's see the last part, that is the controller. So in controller, before we have uh, completed the register and login, and in profile we have just only completed the get profile. Now let's see what is in the update profile. So here you can see here you can notice one change that while returning, one change that instead of returning here we are returning in the different way. So in first what we do is we just call the constructor variable name and dot register request. But now what we are doing, we are returning the response entity dot OK response. Response entity is a Spring class that allows us to control the entire HTTP response. So it lets us specific the it so it um, specify us that the actual status code and the header and the response body. Here we are using the OK method, which automatically sets the HTTP code to 200. OK. Then the response object that we pass inside will become the JSON body, response body sent back to the client. So if the service return a user response object, the client receives the 200 OK status along with that user data in the JSON format. So actually, response entity is uh, actually using this user actually using response entity is considered a best practice because in different situations we can easily return different status code such as 201 with for a created, then there is 400 that could represent the bad request, then the common code 404 not found, depending on the outcome of the request. So our backend implementation for the profile module and the user module has completed. Uh, before we connect this backend to our front end, there are a few important configurations that every Spring Boot developer should understand. So in the next video, we will prepare our backend for front-end integration. We will look at the necessary configuration and discuss some common issues like course, application properties, and other settings required before a front-end application can communicate with our backend. So once that done, we will connect our front end through these APIs, and we can see the complete flow from end to end. So if you are following along with the project, make sure you have completed everything up to this point. So I will give to the so I will give the GitHub link till this point in the description. So I will see you in the next video and happy coding.